Hello guys, welcome to Logic Bytes by AK. Myself Anand Kumar, and recently I started to solve top interview 150 questions in LeetCode platform. So it is a good platform to practice and learn the approaches to solve any problem in coding. So in previous lectures we completed two problem statements, which are merge sorted arrays and remove element. So I will provide the link in the description, so please refer once. And today we are going to solve remove duplicates from sorted array. And I forgot to mention that if you have any issues with the previous lectures, and you can post a comment which related to the video, and I can resolve the query and I can solve your issues. So please comment the issues or the issues that you are facing. Okay, so yeah, let's dive into the third question. Yeah, the question is remove duplicates from sorted array. So going to the description, given an integer array nums sorted in non-decreasing order. You know what is non-decreasing order, right? From small to big, increasing order. So remove the duplicates in place such that unique elements appears only once. The duplicates should be removed and the array should contain only duplicate, mean array should contain only unique elements, right? So we have to remove the duplicate elements. Duplicates means the elements which are repeated more than once. So the relative order of the element should be kept the same. Then return the number of unique elements in nums. So the point here is we have to return the number of unique elements present in the array, and we have to modify the array which should contain only unique elements, and we have to remove the duplicate elements, right? So we got three tasks. First thing is we have to find the number of unique elements, and we have to modify the array which should contain only unique elements, and at last we have to return the number of unique elements, right? So yeah, let's go with the test cases. Consider the number of unique elements to be k. To get accepted, you need to do the following. Change the array that first k element should contain the unique elements that are, yeah. The array contain some extra spaces that doesn't consider as answer. I mean, it doesn't related to the answer. We should contain the unique elements at first. Okay, so let's going to the second example. So we have the array which is given as input, and it contains, and it looks like we got duplicate elements, right? So 0 0 1 1 1 2 comma 2 3 3 and 4. So the every element here is repeated more than once except 4, right? So 0 should be present at only once in the resultant array, and which is present, and we have to remove all the zeros which are repeated after one occurrences of 0, right? So we got only 1 0, and we have to remove it. In place of this 0, we have to keep place of next element which is not equal to 0, which is 1. So we have to continue this process, right? So when we are at 1 first occurrences of 1, we have to remove the next occurrences of ones, and we have to keep place of next element in the next position of previous. So, and we should return 5, right? The number of unique elements which are present in the final array is 5. So yeah, The array contains the elements in the range of minus 100 to 100, and the size of the array is 3 into 10 power of 4. Okay, let me start with the brute force approach. What is the brute force approach for this problem? The first thing is by taking extra space like a list of by taking a list we can add the element or what we can say, yeah, by taking a list we can solve this problem. When we add the element to the list, so if it is first element we should consider it as unique element, right? So initially we got 1, and which is occurred once, right? The first element always occurs at once, right? We should consider it into our answer. So our list contains 1, and the next input array is 1, right? So when we have the element in the nums which is equal to the last element of the list, and it means we got a duplications and we should not add it. Okay, did you get my, I think you got my point. We will add element from nums array to the list when the element is not equal to the last element of the list, right? So let's start with the code. Let me define a function which is brute force, which implements the brute force solution, and it returns uh, let me return the direct answer. Brute force solution which takes input as nums. What we have to do, what do we need to return is number of unique elements, right? Again few unique elements, and we need a list to store the elements which are not repeated. I mean, we have to store the first occurrences of each element, right? So to store that we need a list, and we create a list of object L. So which is, let me define as it as list, and initially we add list, we add first element of list, first element of nums to the list. So list dot add nums of 0, and where we iterate from int I equal to 1, I less than nums dot length I plus plus. Now the element, let me take the element into element variable, element equal to nums of 5. So here we are. So if the incoming element of nums array which is not equal to the last element of the list, then we add that element to the list, right? So the first element we are added to the list, right? So consider this example 2. The list contains the value, the first element is 0, right? And we add it into the list, and we are iterating from 1 to length of nums minus 1, right? So when we are at first index we store this 0 into the element variable, and when element is not equal to the last element of the list we add it to the list. So initially we have list with 0, right? So and which is the incoming element is also 0, so we skip that iteration, right? So if element is not equal to list dot get, how do we get the last element in the list? By using index, right? What is the index of a element which is present at last, which is the index is it's size minus 1, right? So list dot size minus 1, which gives us the last element in the list. And when incoming element is not equal to the last element of the list, we add it to the list dot add element. Okay, and when we get, we increase the unique count, right? unque plus plus. Okay, and initially we got one unique element, right, which is the first element. So what do we have to return? At last we have to return uh, unique elements, right? unque unique elements. And let me implement that method to force solution of nums. I think it's the same. No, it's not. Let me copy paste the method name. Yeah, it returns integer, right? So here we didn't complete our task, right? I hope you find that the tasks which are incomplete. Let me take. So it doesn't, we have to return exactly, but our array is didn't change, right? We didn't change the nums array, right? So let me just print the list. Yeah, I and list. Let's see what are all the elements which are added into the list. If you check it out, yes, we have the elements which are unique, right? And we have to make those elements into the nums array, right? So what we can do, we can iterate. We can take a counter index variable 0, and we iterate on list element list, and we store at nums index position equal to element, right? And if we do this, the nums array will change. Think it might change. Yes, it changed. I hope you understand this step. We have unique elements in the list, right? And we have to update the nums array. And by taking index variable, we are just incrementing the index for every iterations, so that the pointer moves forward and the incoming element stores at that index positions. And finally we are returning the number of unique elements. So this is not the optimal solutions. I can improvise this. Let me check the complexity or the score of this solution by submitting. We get results, right, based on time complexity and so the space complexity. So let me note down the percentages, right? With this approach, what is the runtime complexity? I mean, at what percentage did we beat? 12.33 percentage, right? And with space complexity, 95.18, 95.18 percentage. Let me improvise this by changing or by optimizing the code, right? So let me take another web function called public int optimal, which takes input nums. And what we are doing here, in list we are checking or we are comparing the previous element and the its next element, right? Or the previous and the current element. If these are not equal, we are adding into the list. And same at the list, by taking extra space, we can reduce the space by directly adding it into the nums array, right? So, and to in the previous solution, we have previous variable, right, in the list. the last element is the previous element. So by without using the list, what would be the previous element? To compare, when we are at 1, we just need to check if it is repeated or not. We just compare it to the previous element 0, and if previous and the current element are not equal, we add it into the nums array, right? So go to the first these two elements. Initially we are 0, the previous element would be nothing, right? So we add it to the 0 in the first position, and for we are at index 1, we check it with previous index. What is the previous index value? 0, right? When these two are equal, we don't add the element at current index, which is the element index 1 is 0. We skip these iterations and we go to at 1, and at 1 we check it with previous. We didn't change the previous value, right? The previous value is 0, which is at index 1, and which is not equal to the 1, so we add 1 at index 1 position, and this goes as continues. So we need a previous which stores the first element of the array, and we iterate on int I equal to 1, I less than nums dot length I plus plus. So if the current element, what is the current element? The current element will always be the element at index I, right? So the current element nums of I is not equal to previous. What is the previous of nums of I? Which is nums of I minus 1, right? Nums of I minus 1. When these are not equal, we store the element at ith index, right? So nums of, or let me take a variable which is int idx equal to 0. When these are not, let me take 1. Why? Because we are storing the first element in the nums array, right? The first element of the nums array will always considered into the answer, because it is occurred at once, right? It occurrence is once. So now nums of idx plus plus equal to nums of I. Okay, now we added this one into the array, so we got 0 1 into the final array, and we skip these two ones. Why? Because we update the previous from 0 to 1, right? When we add a new element, and we should make it as previous, right? No, we didn't use any previous method, right? We are just simply checking with the next element, so we don't need previous method. I hope you understand. We just need to check the current element with the next element, right? Which is next element is idx minus, I think here we did a mistake, which is idx minus 1, right? So let me just return idx, and here return optimal of nums. Hope the function name was correct. Optimal. I hope it goes well. Yeah, it did work out well. So let me compare the complexities once. But it didn't optimize any solution space complexity, right? But even though we increased in time complexity, right? We increased of 74%. Previously we got 12.33%. So we optimized the code. In programming, the code optimization is basically focused on the time constraints first. Let me remove this space, I mean the brute force solutions. Let me just submit again. I hope the space complexity also improved. And yeah, coming to the coding part, the solution will be optimized when the time complexity is reduced, not based on the space complexity. So you can observe the space complexity also improved by 2%, and the time complexity is improved by more than 52 percentage. So I think that's the optimal solutions to reduce. I think it's the basic solutions. Yeah, that's it, guys. See you in the next lecture. Sorry. See you in the next lecture. So if you have any queries, please comment down below. I can resolve your issues with the logic or any improvement in my communication skills. You can suggest me. So thanks for watching, guys. So please do support and share it to your friends who are unable to understand or any solutions. Yeah, thanks for watching. Jai Hind.